Good morning. Welcome to King's Report News Hour, 7th month and 24th day by the heavenly calendar, in the 16th year of Changi. Tim Elder sitting in for the second king of Changu, Gyeongjin. Yes, we have an update on Hakchahan. It's, no, short answer is no, she didn't show. But anyway, we'll be getting into that in just a minute. And we'll see what's going to happen now following her no show. Anyway, first of all, let's take our tour as we usually do around the kingdom and see what is going on right now. In Chongqing, Tennessee, it is 58 degrees, a nice cool morning, I guess, and clear, getting up to 82 today. Areas of fog this morning, otherwise partly sunny, and 59 for a low tonight, partly cloudy and shower in spots late. Father's hometown, Cheongju in North Pyongan Province, Korea. What is today, North Korea? Clear and 77 at the moment, and 67 for a low tonight, warm and humid. Turning cloudy this evening, followed by low clouds late. Tomorrow, high of 74, cloudy and humid, a couple of showers and a thunderstorm in the afternoon. Cheonrygung Palace, Northeast Pennsylvania, 57 degrees right now. Partly sunny, high of 80 today. Tonight mainly clear, low of 53. Liberty Rock RV Park and Campground in Limestone County, Texas, 70 degrees right now, partly cloudy. Mostly sunny today, high of 90. Not so bad for Texas. Tonight, clear and low of 67. And at the Suncheon Palace in Korea, currently 76 and partly cloudy, remaining partly cloudy through the evening and uncomfortably humid, low of 74. Tomorrow, very warm, very humid, clouds giving way to sun, high of 89. Gunma Palace is in Japan, 83 degrees right now, mostly clear. An evening shower in places, otherwise partly cloudy and humid, low of 71. Tomorrow, partly sunny, very warm, very humid, high of 90 degrees. And then in Ilan, Taiwan, uh, it is currently 90 degrees and clear, getting down to 77 tonight. Tomorrow, hot, thickening clouds, thunderstorm in spots this afternoon, in the afternoon, and 94. Yes. A Bliss Central family here in Taiwan advised me that people here actually don't really like to use the term Republic of China so much because it's easy to confuse with the other folks across the strait there, the People's Republic of China. Of course, you can guess which one is actually for the people. It's not the people's, you can, if a country has democracy or democratic in its name, it's not democratic. If a country has the word people in its name, it's not for the people. And that works here too. So the People's Republic of China, of course, is the regime of the Chinese Communist Party, and it is for the people who are loyal to the Chinese Communist Party. Here it is the Republic of China, but people here prefer the term Taiwan. Okay, so, but I don't know. I'm kind of conflicted because you know when I'm doing the MC for events, I'm doing it in Father's presence, and I kind of think that Father would prefer to use the Republic of China. Anyway, I'll have to mix it up somehow. I'll pray about it. Okay. All right. So that's that. Let's go to here we go. Father's word, and here we are. Okay. We're in the book on earthly life in the spirit world, chapter 6. Chapter 6. Trying to get some light here. Here we go. Okay. And okay, we're talking about registration. Okay, this is 1966. So, okay, Father's talking about something here that, well, anyway, let's read it first. When you go to the spirit world, if you have not done at least a 1 week fasting for God's sake, then you will not be able to register in that nation. In other words, in the spirit world. Why? Um, God worked for 6,000 years for the on the course of a restoration, and so you must do a fast as you think about that. That is why we have a 7-day fasting period in the Unification Church. This is not something that is there to make you suffer, but it is there to uh, so that you can establish the condition in God's presence that you have struck your physical body, December 18th, 1966. Well, right, maybe that was intended for someone, but and let's see, I've done how many? I think three. I can't remember now, 2 or 3 7-day fasts. Um, and it's certainly not something that you want to do. And it is not something you want to do alone. It's one of those things where you need a little disclaimer that says, "Do not do this at home," or at least do not do it by yourself. All right, because a 7-day fast, um, uh, if it is done properly, uh, is beneficial not only spiritually but physically as well. It clears out your intestines for sure. But if done improperly, it can be very dangerous to your health. Very dangerous to your health. I mean, if someone does a 7-day fast and then after breaking the fast, they go and have a steak dinner, they're going to be extremely sick, even to the point of, hospitalization, and even it might uh, put them on the verge of going to the spirit world there. So it's important to be guided by someone who's done it before and who knows how to do it properly. So I just want to tell you that. And perhaps there's meaning that God gave us that particular passage this morning. Perhaps there's someone watching who needs that message from True Father. I don't know. Okay. Anyway, so yeah, be careful. Be careful. If you decide to do it, be careful. And also, if you decide to do it, you have to follow through. If you know, third, fourth, fifth day, you decide, hey, I don't want to do this. It's actually worse than if you've never done it at all. Okay. If you start, you really have to follow through the whole 7 days. Spiritually, at least, it's really a very um, bad idea to quit in the middle. So make sure that you understand the reason that you're doing it, that you've discussed it with someone who is in a sort of a pastoral position to you, not your little brother, all right, and not some AI or Chat GPT or anything else like that. It's got to be someone who understands. And please, a member of our faith community, a member of our faith community, so that you can be guided if you decide to do this. But be careful and be certain that it is something that you want to do. I highly doubt that I will be doing it ever again in my life. I think I've done enough. Yes. And I'm sure there's a record there in Spirit World as to whether it was twice or 3 times. My first one was in October of 1974, just about a week or so, maybe 2 weeks after I joined, right? 2 weeks after I joined. And um, I was in a group, and the whole group was doing it. And that's much easier if you're in a group like that, and you're sort of encouraging each other and stuff like that. So, all righty then. Let's see what's going on. So first, I need to update you on Akchan's situation. So she didn't show Monday morning at 10. And actually, on Sunday, she sent, or her lawyers filed a document with the special counsel saying, you know what, she's still not, still hasn't recovered from her medical procedure, not operation. All right. I heard someone here uh, was under the impression that she had an operation. No, there's a difference between a medical procedure and a medical operation. And I'm not a doctor, I don't know the entire thing, but I think basic rule of thumb, operation is when you cut something. Okay, you take a knife and you cut. Then that's my understanding of an operation anyway. Procedure is something less invasive, shall we say? Anyway, so she used that as an excuse to say that to tell the special prosecutor, I'm not going to be there Monday morning at 10, the way you asked. Um, and so then the special prosecutor's office put out a notice saying, okay, she has refused us for the third time. And then her people put out another statement saying, oh, no, 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 no. We're not refusing. She's not refusing. She's willing to go on the 17th or the 18th, whichever date the special prosecutor's office decides. She'll go there on one of those dates, 17th or 18th. And so today, Monday, the special prosecutor has been, well, the media obviously is very interested in this situation now. It's become an important story for the media, and not quite at the frenzy level, but because there are other frenzy level stories going on already. So they're asking the special prosecutor, what's going to happen? She didn't show. What's going to happen? And the special prosecutor's office is saying, well, um, we're not considering her request to come on the 17th or 18th. We're not, that's not part of our calculation at all. We are going to follow the law and policy in deciding our next step. What did that mean? The South Korean media is speculating that this statement by by the special prosecutor's office is meant to signal that they are considering putting all sorts of qualifiers in there, right? But this is how they write this in this country. They are considering um, issuing or requesting a court for an arrest warrant. They're considering. So far, of course, it's already evening, and let me just check, make sure that nothing came up on the 7 o'clock news. But I think right now we don't have anything yet. All right, yeah, we only have stuff from earlier in the day. The special prosecutor is still thinking about what to do, but they have not, they have not said, okay, 17 or 18, um, and they have not responded to her request, and they don't intend to respond to that request. Instead, they tend to set their own course according to what they say, according to the law and policy. And you can see what she's doing. She's trying to establish dominance, right? Saying that I'm not going to go there when you want me to. Instead, I'm going to go there when I want to, and I'll be generous, gracious. I'll give you 2 dates. You can choose one of these 2 dates, and I will, I will humble myself to come down off my mountain and appear at your office on either of those 2 dates. Of course, you know, eh, what really bugs the special prosecutor's office is that in each of the 3 cases, she gave her notice of non-appearance very soon before uh, the time that she was expected. All right, so it was just the day before, the day before. So I think it's pretty clear to me and probably to everybody else too that what's going on is that the people around her, probably her lawyers, are trying to convince her to go. And they try and try and try and try and try until the last minute when they say, okay, listen, if you're not going to go, we need to tell the special prosecutor's office now. Okay. And so then that's what they do. So given that, if that is the case, then um, even if the special prosecutor says, okay, 17 or okay, 18, can she be trusted to actually appear? And uh, I think they are realizing, as if maybe they knew from the beginning, but they certainly know now that she cannot be trusted to keep a promise. That uh, even if they uh, sort of put her in that position. So we'll see. We'll see. So right now, we don't know. So maybe something will happen tomorrow. Maybe these special prosecutors will uh, file something with the court tomorrow. We'll have to see. Okay, so that's that. That's that. So, but I tell you, she's putting herself in a position where it's becoming more and more likely. I think, my opinion and opinion of others, uh, it's becoming more and more likely that when she finally goes there, she ain't coming out. She is not coming out. They're going to detain her on the spot. once they have her, once they have her, after all this rigmarole, they're not letting her go, right? That's of course speculation, but uh, uh, even for example, like Wunju McDevitt, right? She was on the list of people who cannot leave the country, but she pleaded a special situation. She said, "Oh, my husband, he's not well. I have to go see him." And they said, "Okay, but you promised to come back." She said, "Yes, I promised to come back," and she did come back. And then she was subpoenaed, and she went there. Not the third time, not the second time, but the first time she went there. And then she spent the day there. They sent her home. And then several days later, they called her again. They subpoenaed her again, and she went a second time and came back. And now what I'm hearing is that there's very little chance that Wonju will have to go to jail. So, you know, I'm not. I don't want to be put in a position of praising McDevitt because she's done a whole lot of damage to the Providence over the past decade or so. But I mean, she kind of showed how this is supposed to be done, right? Don't try to fight the special prosecutor. Just go there and get it over with. Anyway, Hak Jahan is claiming that she has arrhythmia, but arrhythmia can be serious or it might not be serious. And I looked up here a little bit on sort of a medical site. Or did I erase that? I guess I did. Okay. All right. Well, apparently it can be serious, but sometimes it's not so serious. So we don't really know how serious that situation is. Okay, enough of that. All right. So then Charlie Kirk. Yeah. So um, there have been memorial services around the world. And actually, I wanted to show you this just in case you're not aware of it. JD Vance is going to host his show today at 12 noon Eastern time. And I think it'd be a good idea if you're available to catch that, right? Vice President J.D. Vance announced late Sunday that he will guest host the Charlie Kirk show in honor of his late friend who was assassinated Wednesday. Tomorrow, I will have the honor of hosting the Charlie Kirk show. Please join me as I pay tribute to my friend. 12 p.m. ET, Eastern Time, J.D. Vance wrote on X. The conservative leader, 31, was fatally shot. We know that stuff. All right. So anyway, um, so we know. So we have that. Now, um, some people are under the impression that there are sort of explosion of demonstrations around the world. That this demonstration in London, for example, during the weekend, was all about Charlie Kirk. Well, come on. Of course, this was a Unite the Kingdom patriotic demonstration, and patriots in England and other parts of the United Kingdom have a lot to demonstrate about recently, in terms of the immigration policy and the not just policy but also reality, and other things that are going on there in terms of censorship and so forth. And so this was planned prior to the assassination, I believe, at this United Kingdom demonstration. Now, of course, the assassination on Wednesday, I'm sure, influenced a lot more people to show up than would have otherwise. So they feel, okay, wow, we really got to do something here. But the whole thing was not Charlie Kirk. And also in Seoul, I see this uh, post on X. Breaking: South Koreans have taken to the streets en masse and are chanting, "We are Charlie Kirk." In yet another instance of Charlie's reach being a worldwide movement, a sleeping giant has been awakened. The conservatives in Korea have a demonstration in the center of Seoul every weekend, every Saturday, every Saturday. And uh, it looks like someone prepared some signs that said, "We are Charlie Kirk," or something like that, among other signs. I see one here: Chinese no visa entry, security threat is another. I see that. And I see some other. And it's interesting that these signs are in English. Um, I see some "We Are Charlie Kirk" signs, and they're all, white lettering on black background, clearly designed by the same person, I would say. People did not make these on their own. Someone made a lot of these and came and handed them out, it looks like to me. Anyway, a lot of Korean flags, some American flags, which is usual on Saturdays in the center of Seoul, and also a flag bearing the photograph of President Trump right after the assassination attempt at Butler, Pennsylvania, so forth. But this is a regular demonstration that happens every Saturday. It's been going on for years. And just that someone thought to print out these signs and bring them. I don't know if anyone were, any significant number of people in Korea were influenced by this assassination in the United States to come out and demonstrate. I think the crowd size, looks to me, is about the same as what they usually have on Saturday. Okay, so we have to be careful about sort of believing our own propaganda, as I say. Let's be careful about that. Let's keep ourselves grounded and not get too caught up in the propaganda. Uh, all right. So let's see what else is what else is going on. Oh, also there was a memorial service yesterday at the Sanctuary Church in Newfoundland, and I believe it was in Newfoundland. And then that's on Rumble and Twitter, and so you can watch that. Let me just quickly bring that up here. Yeah, it looks like it's in Newfoundland. And you can see Anastasia speaking there, and uh, so forth, and asking what changed to Tyler Robinson. Yeah, I mentioned, when people go to college, they uh, meet some very strange people, and apparently Tyler Robinson wound up with a roommate who was a man who wanted to identify as a woman, Karen there, and Anastasia again. Okay, right. So you can watch that on Rumble and I guess on Twitter as well. Okay. Yeah. So it looks like he was acting out of a love for his transgender lover, and it was love because remember, love we can have principled love and we have unprincipled love. There's principled love and unprincipled love. So just because something is unprincipled does not mean it's not love. It is love, but it's unprincipled. Love needs to be um, it needs the guardrails of the principle. Uh, and for example, Leviticus chapter 18 gives a whole bunch of guardrails, right? Don't sleep with this person, don't sleep with that person, your mother, your sister, your husband's, father's wife, or your father's wife's, all sorts, there's a whole list there of guardrails that the Leviticus 18 gives. And the Bible and other places as well gives guardrails for love. And of course, in the Garden of Eden, God gave a guardrail for love, right? Don't eat the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And this was a guardrail. Of course, not forever. At some point, God would bless Adam and Eve in marriage, and then they would be free to, love each other in whatever way they wanted. But until then, there was some restriction on love that they were to love each other as brother and sister and nothing more until that time. So his unprincipled love for his transgender lover seems to have driven him to this. Although right now the Utah governor is saying that he's not Tyler Robinson is not cooperating with the authorities, but the transgender lover is. So, all right, I don't know what's going on there. I imagine the lover is right, is shocked by what happened and probably is feeling guilty as he, she, it should. I don't know what it is. Okay. Um, uh, so it's good that this person is cooperating with the authorities. Okay. All right. Let's see here. Let's okay, we did the JD Vance, doing that. And okay. All right, let's talk about this thing here. We're going to segue now into what's happening with Russia. Um, some people are saying that Russia is actually more Christian now than the United States, and in fact, is now the most Christian country in the world. Um, well, I don't know. You know, they keep bombing Ukraine. Doesn't seem like a very Christian thing to be doing. But anyway, let's see what this person's saying here. Russia can't win its war in Ukraine militarily and is turning to pressure tactics against NATO as President Donald Trump's strategy squeezes Moscow. Former U.S. advisor to Ukraine, Dan Rice, told Newsmax on Sunday. Putin is pressuring the West. He is testing his limits, said Rice, president of American University Kiev, on Newsmax's Sunday report. He noted that Russia launched thousands of drones at Ukraine in recent weeks, with 19 penetrating Polish airspace, the first such incident in 76 years. But also Romania as well, during the weekend, reported that Russian drones crossed into their airspace. And so, Poland, they say that was, Russia says, oh, that was a mistake. But then it happened again in Romania. So that's kind of hard to pass both situations off as mistakes, right? Poland is taking it seriously. This is an act of war, Rice said. While the direct damage was limited, Rice said the Kremlin's strategy relies less on battlefield gains and more on psychological warfare. Yeah, because the drones that were in Poland that went into Polish airspace were actually on their way back to base from an attack on Ukraine. And so I guess that means that they were not armed. They had already released all their, their explosives or whatever. Um, and but just sort of invading or sort of uh, violating Poland's airspace in itself is a psychological thing. It looks like he's KGB to the core. It's in his DNA. Rice said of Putin, he spends most of his time on soft power operations, information operations, trying to pressure the West in different ways, get people to concede, give up things, be afraid. Rice argued that Ukraine has blunted Moscow's military advances and that Russia is seeking to secure in negotiations what it can't achieve on the battlefield. Russia cannot win this war militarily. They know that now, he said. He credited Trump with tightening sanctions and shifting costs to European allies. We have released weapons that have been paid for by the Europeans. That is a sea change, Rice said, noting that 3,500 extended range missiles had been transferred and that Ukraine is producing its own systems to strike deep into Russia, inside Russia. At the same time, Rice said Trump has targeted Moscow's energy revenues with sanctions on India for refining Russian oil. You're hitting the Russians on the supply side, the demand side, and that's the way to win the war, he said. Russia cannot continue this war if it doesn't have money. But so China, please, let's not forget China. All right. Right, that's the end of the story. Um, what this article does not mention is that President Trump has told the European powers that, listen, if I'm going to put more sanctions on Russia first, before that, you guys have got to stop buying oil and gas from Russia, all right? And if I'm putting sanctions on Russia and you're buying oil from Russia, I mean, what's going on here? Whose side are you on? And so he's put that condition on the Europeans, which I think is a very sensible thing to do. And we'll see what happens with that. Okay. All right. So yeah, but I don't know. Why not China? Why not China? All right, why not China? Is Trump kind of afraid of the possible collapse of China? That's possible because it's going to be a mess when it happens. That's for sure. And maybe he just doesn't want to deal with that. I don't know. Okay. All right. Let's see here. Let's go to Breitbart now. They're also, of course, leading with the Charlie Kirk situation. Um, Speakers remember inspirational Turning Point USA leader. And one of the things that's really sad about this situation is the number of leftists who are sort of celebrating or saying, "Oh yeah, he deserved it" or anything like that. No matter what we believe, what opinions we may have, and what disagreements we may have, a man was killed. A man was killed in front of his family, in front of his children, and that is definitely not a good thing. And for people to celebrate his death actually is an admission that they could not um, defeat him with words. It's an admission that Charlie Kirk could not be defeated with words from the left. And well, they're right. They're right because, well, quite frankly, he was right in what he was saying. And so, since they could not defeat him with words, and now they're celebrating his untimely death at the hands of at the hands of a murderer. And one person has gone so far as to say that the Democrat Party is now the party of murder. Yeah, well, I wouldn't go that far. Not every Democrat is a murderer uh, or even a supporter of murder, but it certainly seems that they are the party that has basically given up on trying to pursue their political objectives through words and or even through peaceful demonstrations, and is now willing to resort to um, murder in some cases. Right. And even small children being brainwashed this way. There was a one video of a father talking to his small children, maybe around 10 years old, maybe a little bit less, saying, "Oh, I have good news." And they say, "Oh, did Trump die?" No, 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 no. It's all right. Not that's not the best news. It's the second best news. Oh, did what they say? What they say? Did J.D. Vance die? And they said, no, 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 not that either. They said, okay, did Elon Musk die? So these 10-year-olds, 8, 9, 10-year-olds, thinking in terms, it turned out that his good news was something entirely different. It was not about someone dying. But it was quite disturbing to see these 8, 9, 10-year-olds having been sort of brainwashed by parents, media, perhaps peers at school, into thinking this way, that someone's death is good news. And let's face it, it goes back to George W. Bush, all right, when he said that, oh, the world would be a better place without Saddam Hussein. And that's the kind of that's the kind of thinking now that Democrats have with respect to people who disagree with them. So it seems like America continues to go in a very dangerous direction, and that this assassination seems to have taken America one giant step uh, further in that dangerous direction, where people are no longer, or not, well, I wouldn't say no longer, but where people are less likely now to solve their disagreements with words and sort of learn to maybe agree to disagree or learn to sort of live with the fact that not everyone agrees with me, sort of learn to live with that fact. I mean, that's an important adult trait, isn't it? Children are ones who cannot stand the idea that someone disagrees with them. No, 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 no. I want a bicycle. I want a bicycle. I want a bicycle. They can't stand the idea that their parents have a different opinion. That's a child, and unfortunately, um, many people are in that kind of a childish situation right now where they cannot stand the idea, cannot, uh, kind of even refusing to serve people in restaurants who have a different opinion than their own, sit next to a plane on someone who has a different opinion than their own. I mean, how ridiculous is that, right? What difference does it make uh, what the person next to you on a plane has as their political philosophy? What are you going to do during the flight? Are you going to have a political debate? Or is that what you were planning on with someone you agree with? It's crazy. It's crazy. Unfortunately, it is crazy, and unfortunately, it's getting crazier. But we just need to people just need to understand that it is possible to disagree, and it is possible for intelligent people to disagree. It is possible for righteous people to disagree on what is good. Okay. All right. So anyway, we'll probably have to witness the continued um, escalation of those crazy situations in America. We'll see where it takes us, but I'm afraid it's not going to take us anywhere good. Tulsi Gabbard says the Charlie Kirk assassination is the definition of terrorism. Well, she's certainly right on that. Um, and okay, right here we go. It's Colbert gets a standing ovation at the Emmys. Of course, of course. Oh yeah, and New York Governor Kathy Hochul now has endorsed a socialist Zoran Mamdani for mayor in the election coming up in November. Wow, wow. I thought uh, I thought Democrat leaders had a little more sense, but I guess he's 20 points ahead of the next candidate. So I guess he's figuring, well, if he's going to win, I might as well endorse him so I can have some kind of a relationship after the election. Um, Yeah, well, New York. All right, let's see here. Jamil Hill, of course, is a leftist. Used to be an MS. No, no, no. Well, the sports network. For not MSNBC, but the sports network. She used to work for that as a reporter, and says Charlie Kirk's was a white supremacist whose influence was dangerous. I certainly disagree that he was a white supremacist. Wow, I'm having trouble with my tongue today. But his influence has only grown as a result of the assassination. We've seen that there are tens of thousands of requests, according to uh, Turning Point USA, tens of thousands of requests are pouring in uh, of people who want to start chapters of Turning Point USA in their own schools. And that just shows how this assassination was actually counterproductive, as these kinds of acts of violence usually are. And inspires people to stand up. No, I'm not sure about Korea, especially not about Korea, and I'm not even sure about. Okay, there was some, to some extent, I'm sure the United Kingdom demonstration in UK had a larger audience because of Charlie Kirk's assassination, but rest of the world, I don't think they're really reacting all that much. But certainly, people in the United States react a great deal. I think, frankly, well, Charlie Kirk was actually in Korea. He was actually in Korea a few days prior to his assassination, very recently, very before that. So some conservatives in Korea are shocked by this because they actually met him or they actually attended his event in Korea, but not a whole lot, not a whole lot. And those were people who would have shown up at that Saturday demonstration anyway. All right, let's see here. And high school cheer coach fired for posting video celebrating assassination. There again, childish, childish. A New Republic urges Democrats shun empathy after Kirk assassination, be callous, short of cruel. I don't know if they know how to do that. Okay. Be callous, short of cool. Cruel, not cool, short of cruel. And Turning Point USA chapter request a skyrocket. Oh, I'm not sharing this with you. I can't share this with you again. A request to join and start Turning Point USA chapters at high schools and universities across the United States skyrocketed following Erica Kirk's speech after the assassination of her husband, Turning Point USA founder Charlie Kirk. In less than 24 hours after Erica Kirk captivated the world with an address, again, captivated the world. Uh, uh, there are 8 billion people in the world. All right. I'm sorry. Out of 8 billion, how many people were actually captivated? Uh, I'm sorry. This is, oh my goodness. Yeah, okay, well, let's not go too far into that. Okay, Eric Kirk captivated the world, or at least some major portion of it, with an address following her husband's death, in which she stated, "The movement my husband built will not die. It won't. I refuse to let that happen." Turning Point USA received 18,000 new chapter requests from across the nation. The reason I chuckle at that expression is because this is, um, I may get some heat for saying this, but this is largely a domestic event in the United States. Its influence outside of the United States is limited. Uh, he had done a tour of Japan and Korea in the week or 10 days before his assassination, and so there was some influence there, I'm sure, but but it's largely limited to the United States and perhaps to the English-speaking world. Um, and so to say that Erica Kirk captivated the world, I think, is definitely an exaggeration. No one will ever forget my husband's name, and I will make sure of it. Erica Kirk continued. I will become stronger, bolder, louder, and greater than ever. My husband's mission will not end, not even for a moment. I'll make Turning Point USA the biggest thing that this nation has ever seen. She later added, I love you, baby. Rest in the arms of the Lord. And I think that she has a very good chance of doing that, making Turning Point USA the biggest thing that this nation has ever seen. Um, we'll have to see how it develops. It could develop in, or it could spin off some kind of a political movement. Right now, it's primarily a sort of a social movement, a patriotic social movement, and we'll have to see how it develops. But I think it certainly is going to be turbocharged now. On Saturday, Minnesota State Representative Elliot Engen shared to X a text he received from a Turning Point USA staffer, which read, we have 18,000 new chapter requests since Erica spoke. We had 9,000 college chapters and 1,100 high school chapters prior to this. This is the turning point. And that's great. That's great. Perhaps, yes, perhaps this will be the turning point, and perhaps those who celebrate this kind of thing can be relegated to a minority. That would be great. In her address to the world following the Turning Point USA founder's assassination, Erica Kirk also declared that you have no idea the fire that you have ignited within this wife. Cries of this widow will echo around the world like a battle cry. The Turning Point USA spokesman Andrew Colvett told Breitbart News the evil that committed this atrocious act and the evil that gloated and sneered after it happened had no idea what they've unleashed across this country and the world. God had his hand on Charlie and on TPUSA, and he hasn't removed it. He's just added millions more, Colvett added. On Sunday, Colvett offered an update on X, writing the organization has received over 32,000 inquiries in the last 48 hours to start new campus chapters. To put that into perspective, TPUSA currently has 900 official college chapters and around 1,200 high school chapters, with a presence of 33,500 total, Colvett continued. And this may influence some young people to get into this kind of a movement. I'm sure it will, in fact. Maybe quite a few young people will be influenced by this. And that will be fantastic. Charlie's vision to have a Club America chapter, our high school brand, in every high school in America, around 23,000, will come true much faster than we could have ever possibly imagined. Truly incredible, he added. Yes, yes. Colvett also shared with Breitbart News a passage from the Bible, 1 John 4:4, which reads, Ye are of God, little children, and have overcome them, because greater is he that is in you than he that is in the world. He's God. The meaning of 1 John 4:4 conveys that Christians, empowered by the Holy Spirit within them, have already triumphed over the world's evil forces, including false teachers and Satan. This divine power, this reporter is now going in on a sermon, but anyway, this divine power, far greater than any worldly entity, empowers believers to live with confidence, knowing that their true identity is in God, who provides a victory over any challenge that they may face in spiritual battles or adversaries. Okay. And also, more than $4.6 million has been raised to support Kirk's family through the Christian crowdfunding site Give, Send, Go. Yes, not GoFundMe, but Give, Send, Go. Yes, that's a Christian fundraising site. Okay. Yes, so this is um, a terrible thing that happened, but it looks like God is going to be able to use this for his providence to turn America around. Not that God caused this to happen. Satan caused this to happen. Obviously, this young man um, acting out of unprincipled love, it looks like, did an evil act. But God is able to work through it anyway. Even God is able to work through everything for good, and that is the power of God, and that is what is fantastic about God. He could not intervene. When that young man was lying on the roof, getting ready to pull the trigger, God was there, but he could not intervene. But now that this evil act has happened, God can use this perhaps to turn America around. But again, it's up to the 5% responsibility of each individual. But God is obviously uh, able to work much more strongly in the hearts and minds of high school and university students around the country today. And I'm sure that future political leaders of America will come from this incident, and they will maybe the future president of the United States, a conservative president of the United States, will look back and say, you know what, I got into politics because of Charlie Kirk, and because of his assassination, I decided that I had to stand up, and that's where I got my beginning. Praise God, praise God, praise God, and but also let's just be careful not to get too caught up in our own propaganda, please. Okay, all right. Let's see there. Okay. Teacher ranted about anti-fascism while showing 10-year-old's assassination video. And one thing to remember is that fascists are people, I mentioned this before, but fascists are people who, among other things, use violence and terror to accomplish their political objectives. So, who was the fascist? Was it Charlie Kirk? Was he using violence and terror? No. It was the guy with the gun. It was the guy who was pulling the trigger on the gun and the people behind him, the people who inspired him, directly or indirectly. We don't know yet what exactly was going on behind him. And I think I saw FBI is going after possible accomplices and those who may have influenced him. So we'll see what the FBI comes up with. I'm not exactly holding my breath on that, but we'll see what the FBI comes up with in terms of accomplices. But certainly, um, those people were evil. But now God is able to strike back, strike back. Praise God for his power. Yes. All right, let's see here. And all sorts of trans people are coming out and trying to justify this and stuff like that. Okay. Okay. All right, let's see here. Let's go to the Epic Times, and Epic Times also is covering the visuals and the memorial services. And let's see, employees fired and suspended for celebrating death. Yes, and these are all people who cannot stand the idea that someone disagrees with them, and so they celebrate someone's death. Okay. Okay, charges against Kirk's suspected assassin to be filed on September 16th. That'll be tomorrow. And Turning Point USA announces memorial service. All right. Let's see. This planet needs to heal. Why Aussies mourn at Charlie Kirk's death. Okay. And this is also, of course, part of the English-speaking world that was particularly impacted by Charlie Kirk. That shot that took out Charlie Kirk has ensured that this message is going to go from one corner of the planet to the other, said an attendee. A candlelight in Sydney, hundreds of strangers wept for a man most had never met. Charlie Kirk's death may have been an American tragedy, but to those gathered, it was also a stark reminder that locally Australians need to reject bitterness, embrace dialogue, and bridge divisions. The 31-year-old co-founder of Turning Point USA was shot in the neck while speaking to a crowd of around 3,000 at Utah University. Kirk is survived by his wife, Erica. The national director of Turning Point Australia, a local affiliate inspired by the U.S. movement, said he was devastated by the news. That man could have been president. He said he was a talent. He also had a strategic mind for chess. He knew how to set up an organization, and he was the face of it to be the spearhead. Previously, it was an old person's game. Understandably, as you get older, You tend to think about your children's future and the grandkids' future, but Charlie revolutionized that by going to the heart, the factory of the bad ideas, and challenging it there. Yes. And prominent indigenous conservative leader and businessman Warren Mundine also attended. Mundine, a 31-year-old kid. He's got kids under 5. What sort of human being does this? What sort of human being kills another human being like that? His kids are going to grow up without a dad. His wife hasn't got a husband now. It's just horrible to think about it. He told the Epoch Times. When Dean said it was time for those with conservative leaning beliefs to mobilize. We're going to stand up for the democratic rights of freedom of speech, religious freedom. We're not going to let the Western democracy go down the gurgler, he said. And former Qantas pilot Graham Hood, and a critic of Australia's strong COVID-19 response, previously shared a stage with Kirk in Phoenix. Evil has made the biggest mistake of its life, because that shot that took out Charlie Kirk has ensured that his message is going to go from one corner of the planet to the other, he told the Epoch Times. Hood said he cried upon hearing the news, and that Australians were locked in a battle between good and evil. Our country is going down the gurgler because there's a God-shaped hole in it that we've filled with communism, with fascism, and with a whole bunch of other isms that just haven't worked. Okay. Praise God, praise God. So it's also influencing these people in Australia. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Yeah. Of course, what is Xi Jinping thinking about this? I'm sure he received a report about this. So um, I think he would say that I think Xi Jinping would say that the shooter made a mistake. Because Xi Jinping has said a number of times, China is patient, the Communist Party is patient, and he believes he's a committed Marxist, and he believes that history is on the side of communism. That eventually, capitalism and every non-communist person in the world will eventually sort of come to communism or be swept aside. And, and so there's no reason to hurry. There's no reason to risk the kind of reaction that we have here, right? Um, and he may be concerned that this may be kind of a Pearl Harbor event. Pearl Harbor, right, was an event of violence, of course, by the Japanese Navy, which turned American public opinion 180 degrees in terms of its willingness to participate in the war, in the Second World War. Um, and these days, actually, historians are beginning to ask, maybe, if Japan had not committed Pearl Harbor, then they could have done what they wanted in Asia. They just had to be a little more patient. So Xi Jinping, I think, probably takes that lesson from Pearl Harbor, and he also takes a lot of lessons from the failure of the Soviet Union. So I think he would probably say that, that this was a mistake on the part of the shooter. But we'll see how China plays this. I think they're kind of relatively quiet so far. They're not exactly sure how to play this right now. All right, let's see here. Obviously, I'm sure I don't think that the news is really reaching the people in China, since they don't have Google or Facebook or anything like that, and certainly not Epoch Times or Newsmax. Okay. Let's see, the Charlie Kirk assassination suspect under special watch and custody, according to the sheriff's office. Oh yeah, let's hope that he does not have an untimely death, a la Epstein. Yeah, that would be terrible. Yes, we need to know. We need to know from him who his accomplices were, and who he talked to about this before doing it. Okay. as Supreme Court sets to return already. Are they already getting? I guess they have a couple more weeks of their vacation before they come back. Let me share this again. What is Elon Musk saying? Elon Musk's political motivations are up to him. Tells us, yeah. Okay. Okay. British parents make no phone packs to keep children off smartphones. Maybe a good idea. It is a good idea, as a matter of fact. Okay. In America, in photos, Charlie Kirk mourning 9/11 commemoration and protest at the Missouri Capitol. Okay. All right, let's go to, I want to go to this story here. Oh no, oh no, I'm already out of time. Okay, all right, I'll mark this for tomorrow then. Where did the time go? All right, looks like I'm out of time. In fact, I am out of time. Sorry, so I'll see you tomorrow. It is the time, right? Yeah, it is, yeah. God bless.